Welcome to another edition of Discover Tinley, where we highlight the people and organizations in town that make Tinley Park a great place in which to live. And as we all know, Tinley Park is a pretty great place in which to live. Hopefully, and also my name's Ron Centanni. I'll be your host tonight. And our program is brought to you as always through the volunteer services of the Community Resources Commission, along with our excellent high school volunteers who help us out every month in these programs. So it's tremendous to see the volunteer efforts of Tinley Park playing out in these programs. A lot of things going on in town. It's getting to be the fall now, and school started, so hopefully everybody is settled into to fall. We've got a very special program tonight, and I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on introductions, but a very special program about a person who is really talking about volunteers, somebody who volunteered and gave a lot of his time and efforts to the betterment of Tinley Park over many, many years. Back in the springtime, Mayor Ed Zabrocki gave us the sad news that he needed to resign because of some very serious health problems. And so he was leaving office after 34 years as mayor of Tinley Park. And I thought tonight we'd talk to a couple of people who really knew him very well and maybe give us a side of Mayor Ed that we hadn't seen before and known before. And our first guest has known Ed a long time, village clerk and former trustee Patrick Ray. Patrick, thanks for coming to Discover Tinley.
Thank you.
Now you've been involved in Tinley Park. Should I ask you how many years you've been involved with Tinley Park government?
Village government itself is about 44 years.
Wow.
Longer than that, but
Yeah.
from grade school on, I was the student body president in 1959 of Central Junior High, and that sort of starts a long period of time.
Yeah. Now, when did you first meet Mayor Ed? What were the circumstances of first meeting him and under what conditions?
Eddie had just moved to Tinley Park a couple of years earlier, and in 1971, he was visiting with a number of village officials objecting to the fact that we might want to put some power lines through his side of his new house, not through the house itself, but through the yard. And it would interfere with the trees. And he had bought a plot had grown trees on it. So it was really at the old National City Bank right across from Railroad Station Number 1. Still a bank.
Okay.
And we were meeting there with one of our commissions, and Ed came in to talk to us. That's where I met him the first time.
Wow. And then he developed he was on one of the commissions. He was called it Human Resources Commissions back then.
Yes, it was.
And then he progressed there from trustee.
Yes, he did, for almost 4 years, and then the mayor. Actually, he's been involved in Village of Tinley Park one way or the other since the early 1970s.
Wow.
He was in his late 20s when he was coming to those first meetings.
Was he that young? I didn't know he was that young.
Absolutely.
Oh, what do you remember about his first times in office and some of the things he did and some of the things that you worked together on?
Ed was very thoughtful. His immediate concerns were expressed in his desire to be close to the people. He literally took what your profession is, education and counseling, and he just transferred it to his everyday life, which generated sincere concern for the people.
Yeah, he always struck me as being very people-oriented. Of course, yeah, that was his profession as an educator and for the people, and he brought that to Tinley Park. Can you remember some ideas, some things he did to really show that?
Well, he made it pretty important for all of us to recognize that a trend that began developing in those years, particularly the mid to late 70s, where people were buying their second homes in Tinley Park. Up until that time, new folks that had come out after World War II might stay in town a while and then move out to move up. When Tinley Park began building a second tier of housing, of new housing, that allowed them to stay, they stayed. And he was so proud of that, and he still is.
Oh, yeah.
And it's very important. We have a stable population.
Yeah, I know, because I've lived in Tinley Park since 1972 and moved about 3 or 4 times in staying in town here. I've only known 2 mayors, Mayor Jack Dunn and Ed Zabrocki.
And now 3.
And now the third one, Dave
Sure.
Seaman, and yeah, keep up that work there. What are some of the things that you worked together on, and how did he show his abilities as a leader and a mayor?
Probably there's 3 or 4 things. First, he was a consensus finder. I mean, the town went from 10,000 to 60,000, in fact, less than 10 to 60,000 during his time. That kind of growth during a 4-decade period, a 3.5 actually, could build instability. He reached out to build stability. He constantly went to the neighborhoods. He constantly met with people in good times and bad. There was never a time when there was a bad fire or a flood or something that you wouldn't see a quiet person standing in the corner of the group of firemen or policemen or first responders or neighbors, and it was the mayor, just there. And when very bad things happened, you could count on Ed Zabrocki to knock on the front door of the house and to go in and console the folks where there were personal losses in those houses. It was very common for him to do that. Wow. And stay.
Wow.
You hear politicians say they love their town or they love their county or they love their country, and they probably do. But the difference between the normal love that you might find from an average parent and those great parents you'll find between Ed Zabrocki as mayor and others as mayor. He literally felt everybody was his to worry about.
Wow. Yeah, he devoted a lot of time and effort to making sure people felt comfortable and felt welcomed into the village and things like that.
Absolutely.
Can you remember any projects that you worked together on that he helped develop and that really, with his leadership qualities, what kind of qualities did he show in his leadership as far as bringing things to Tinley Park and making Tinley Park a better place in which to live?
He had an uncommon ability to learn the difficult side of government, which is numbers. He was an English teacher. He hated numbers, but you just don't balance budgets. When he became mayor, the village of Tinley Park was a BAA in credit rating, very marginal. We were selling tax anticipation warrants to keep the town running. Wow. Today we're a BAA. You don't get much better than that in the whole country, and we got that in the middle of the recession, and we've held on to it. So Ed knew exactly what had to be done, and he had to understand the numbers to do it, and he did. Never ceased to amaze me. Of course, I'm a retired banker, and my whole side of that is numbers. But he got there, and I was proud of him. He also knew that the property value of the house was important. So he established the standard that we would build nothing in the town, public building, that wouldn't appreciate the value of the neighborhood. And I could show you whether it be the current village hall or fire station number 2. When that was built in the late 70s, we could have gone another way and put in something with brick front and sort of a different kind of a backside to that building. We wouldn't do it until we could afford to put in something that still looks as new and as nice in that neighborhood as you would want. It fits in. So the appreciation of property value is one of his goals.
Wow. Well, he did very well in that, keeping things going like that. Now, through the years now, as far as his performance as a board member and a mayor, how did he conduct meetings and performances there to make the government work smoothly?
Probably one of the most unselfish mayors that you'll ever meet. He structured the village board such that each trustee, of which there are 6, chaired a committee, and the chairman of that committee was effectively the deputy mayor in that area, whether it be public safety or public works. And that person literally set the policy, led the policy at the village board, and with the village manager supervised that department. His philosophy was, if you don't let elected officials get into policy, they only have one thing left: politics. And we know that can be very unstable if people just want to be gamesy about it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he's been very good at that, yeah. As far as what do you see in the future now in his impact on the history of looking at Ed Zabrocki's term? How will history kind of see him?
History will record him as probably the most dynamic mayor in the history of the town. The greatest growth has taken place here. The highest consensus of government has been during this town. The awards that poured in on this town over the last 20 years have been overwhelming. At the regional, and Eddie was the president of the regional mayors and managers. Mayor of Chicago was one of the members. Eddie was a vice president of the Illinois Municipal League. There wasn't a position in this state that he didn't hold in an executive position while he was mayor of Tinley Park. Having said that, there's no way that history it can't ignore someone in which the town doubled and doubled again, in which the town's growth was paralleled by a sense of government and pride. More recently, we've had a hiccup with an issue or two, and I can assure you that if he were still here, he'd be all over it and horrified. And the new mayor is all over it, and he's horrified.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Well, I mean, nobody's perfect. I mean, no town is perfect. No government is perfect. We're dealing with human beings, so there's always going to be little hiccups, I would think. I think Tinley Park has probably avoided most major hiccups.
During Eddie's time, there's never been one investigation, one violation of the public trust by an elected official. From time to time, he would say, when most of our citizens came in, and they were always very kind, and even the ones that are a bit more aggressive, they've always been well treated, and usually wound up in meetings with Ed personally. He would go out of his way, but from time to time he'd say, if we have a problem, our doors are open, our files are open, feel free to go to the state's attorney, and we usually give the person the number.
Oh.
It's, of course, nothing like that ever occurred. He and the mayor of Orland Park were two absolutely solid personalities that you talked of history. The two will be recorded side by side.
Wow.
As being outstanding public servants, unselfish public servants, whose 30-plus years of service in both cases were marked by growth, honesty, and the increase in the appearance, the worth, and the individual property values of the town. I can just say this, we're concluding a bad economic time.
Yes.
During this economic time, every year but two, Tinley Park was able to fund pay raises for its staff. By the way, the smallest staff of any community of this size in the Midwest.
Oh my.
And not only could we give pay raises, but each year we paid, and if necessary, paid more into the retirement accounts for our policemen and for the fire and employees, such that anyone buying a house in Tinley Park today will know they will never have to pay extra taxes to cover fully funded pensions in this state. 20 years ago, you wouldn't say that. Of course it should be fully funded. Right now, almost every community, and certainly the state, the city of Chicago, and regretfully even the county of Cook, are not even close to fully funded. They're billions of dollars in debt. Not Tinley Park. That policeman on the beat, that clerk in my office, knows full well when they retire, it's there for them. A comfortable retirement is there for them. There'll be no scalping. That's Ed Zabrocki again. He made sure of that.
Wow. Well, finally, I just kind of thought, give me 3 or 4 words that you would put on describing Ed Zabrocki.
Unselfish, exceedingly reasonable, and just absolutely seems to love everybody.
Wow. Well, we're going to miss him. We're going to miss
Sure
him very much so, and hopefully the legacy will continue on and keep on going. And for the people like you in office, we're going to keep going for a while. So Tinley Park will maintain. Thanks for coming to Discover Tinley and helping us remember some things about Ed Zabrocki's term as mayor.
Well, thank you for the opportunity.
Okay. Well, as Clerk Ray talked about, Mayor Ed not only did things within the village, but his touch of things outside the village was very important too. You know, Tinley Park is not an island. It's one of many suburbs in the area here, and a mayor nowadays, in his days, has to have a regional outlook to a lot of things and get along with the fellow mayors. And a couple of towns that are nearby that are outstanding, he got along with very well. But one main one that Patrick Ray talked about was the Orland Park. Orland Park is one of our premier communities in the south suburbs. And we're very pleased to have with us today the mayor of Orland Park, Dan McLaughlin. Mayor,
happy to be here.
Thanks for coming. Yeah,
glad to be here.
Now, how long have you been mayor of Orland Park?
Just about 23 years.
Wow, and you're still going strong, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think things are going pretty well. I was on the board for 8 years before as a trustee, so kind of like Ed, we've been active in our village boards for a long time.
How do you keep sustaining that? I always want to wonder, how do you keep going?
You know, there's times where it's obviously harder than other times,
yes.
but you know, if you like what you're doing, you just find a way to get it done. So
I'll give you credit, especially those of you who devote that much time and effort to your village. I think it's tremendous that you're willing to do that.
yeah, and it's well, also like Ed, you know, most suburban mayors have a job elsewhere. So I've always had a job that involved a commute.
Oh, geez.
So that makes it a little more challenging, but I'm always happy to get involved in the projects we have going on in Orland Park.
Orland,
Some
yeah.
good things going on.
And Orland has been growing, and
Yeah.
you've had a tremendous run of
Well, I think
expansion.
Orland and Tinley have grown together.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
over the last 30 years or so, both communities have done very well and grown together, helped each other. So.
Okay. Let's talk about that. Now, how long have you known, when did you first meet Ed, and how long have you known Ed Zabrocki?
Well, you know, I went to Brother Ice High School.
Okay.
So I guess I officially first met Ed when I was in high school.
Oh, no!
But he was a counselor, and
Okay.
college counselor, that kind of thing.
Right.
And so I guess I officially met him there, but didn't really get to know Ed until I got on the village board in Orland Park. Now, even though he was mayor and I was a trustee for a number of years, the two towns still worked together well and did a lot of things together. So interacted with Ed quite a bit. So that would be in the early 80s.
Oh, wow.
Early 80s.
Okay. Let's talk about that. What kind of things did you work together, and how did that relationship establish over the years? What are some of the first things you did with Ed, and how did that grow over the years?
Well, you know, there's a lot of things we did together with, you know, as bordering communities, but I think the fact that Ed and I got along well together, we would talk a lot. You know, the issue come up in Tinley or Orland that we just call each other up to say, is there something we can do to help, or what do you think about this? So there's a lot of phone calls back and forth where we're offering to help to each other, just being inquisitive, seeing what's going on. So I think we learned off each other. Of course, I had a lot of respect for Ed from the time I got involved out here as a village trustee. But he was a leader in the community, not only Tinley Park, but he's a leader in the region. So, of course, I always tried to learn off of people that have been there before me anyway. So, but he was a neighbor who has been there before. So there was a lot to learn off Ed.
Can you remember some of the first projects you did work together on, and how did that go?
You know, we started something called OTEC together, and OTEC was the Orland Tinley Economic Committee. So we had meetings, joint meetings of the two boards. We would invite members of the two chambers of commerce at the time, and some other community leaders, and we'd just get together and talk about what's going on in the region, how is Orland Park and Tinley Park affected by other events and other things going on, and how do we react to it? How do we help each other? We also did some kind of joint lobbying together in Springfield through OTEC, you know, where we would go down to Springfield or host an event down in Springfield. We'd invite state reps and senators, the governor, try and make sure people in Springfield knew where Orland and Tinley were and some of our issues. So OTEC, I think, was pretty important and has done some good over the years. I do remember coordinating with Ed, and I don't know if you remember Senator Bill Maher Jr.
Okay, right. I remember senior and junior.
Yes, I do too. But I mean, Senator Bill Maher Jr. Was able to acquire a grant that Ed and I worked on with a couple other mayors and did an I-80 corridor study. So that was something, again, regional in scope, where all the towns in the area would benefit from. So that study kind of gave all of us a little bit of direction. And since then, there's been development along I-80 that I believe that study helped a little bit. So there's things like that we worked on together. I'm not sure how much you follow things like the auto dealers. There's several areas where auto dealers in other communities kind of band together and do some joint advertising in that. And Ed and I were talking about how all the auto dealers on 159th Street didn't seem to do that. And we thought it would be a benefit for our area if we kind of helped get all the auto dealers along 159th Street into some kind of an organization that, promoted each other and promoted both towns. Mm-hmm. So Ed and I sat down with all the owners of all the car dealers along 159th Street and helped them form the 159th Street Auto Dealer Association. And then both towns agreed to commit to a $25,000 grant, so we started them out with $50,000 worth of potential advertising, and we left it up to them on exactly how to do the advertising. But the point is, Ed and I worked together with our auto dealers along 159th Street to benefit them, our businesses, as well as both communities.
Yeah, that's been quite a boon to both our towns
Yeah.
over there in that area. We're kind of fortunate that we were able to get all of them in one place like that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So-
what kind of qualities did Ed show to you? What kind of qualities did he show in your dealings with him, and those kinds of things that really stand out as Ed Zabrocki?
I do think when you talk to Ed, especially about government and about our communities, our region, he always spoke with a certain amount of not only knowledge but confidence. And when somebody's speaking with confidence, you have a kind of a feeling of a willingness to listen and work together. So I think Ed's confidence in his own abilities, his confidence in his decision making, I think kind of rubbed off on a lot of us that worked with him. So I think his confidence and just the fact that he was a good guy, an honest, hard-working leader was something I think a lot of us were impressed with.
Oh yeah. Well, and also some of his values too, that he valued that kind of thing. What did you see in sort of the values that he valued a lot, and some of the ethics? You have to perform pretty well in the villages as mayors, and there's certain values and ethics you must have. What kind of things did Ed show that he had in those areas?
Well, this might not sound like it has anything to do with government
That's okay.
or leading a village, but I think the fact that he was such a strong family guy meant a lot, because we're in towns that are, regardless of the amount of retail we might have, they're still somewhat bedroom communities. There's a lot of people like us that we're representing. And I think if you're a family guy like Ed is, you make decisions based on your read of things. And I think his read of things is pretty much what the people in Tinley Park and our area were thinking as well. So,
yeah. No, yeah, and I think I think family values they should go into government. I mean, that's what keeps a good, honest government going. If you didn't have those kind of values, I think government would be really down the tubes. So it's
no doubt,
it's good. And then, I mean, from your background too, I'm sure your family values are keeping you going very strongly in Orland Park there too, and keeping that village going strong.
Right. Well, I certainly hope so.
Yeah. Over the years now, how has it been going with you and Ed? Well, what was your reaction when you heard that Ed had to step down?
Well, I kind of mixed emotions. You felt good for him and his family that he was going to have some time out of the spotlight and be able to concentrate on the things he wants to do, things he likes doing with his family. But on the other hand, you're losing a serious long-term leader for the region. So kind of mixed emotions, but certainly understand it. I'll be there someday. So I do understand it.
Okay. Can you think of any other projects you guys worked on regionally to make?
Well, Ed was also big in regional mayors groups.
Oh, okay.
So while I'm a little further west, so we belong to the Southwest Conference of Mayors and the South Suburban Mayors and Managers, Ed got very involved in the South Suburban Mayors and Managers Associations. That's monthly meetings of the mayors in that region, and he was president for a while. He was a leader, but about, I shouldn't guess because I don't remember how many years ago, but Mayor Daley formed something called the Metropolitan Mayors Caucus, which involved all 274 mayors around the Chicago area. Oh. And like the South Suburban Mayors and Managers, Ed got very involved in the Metropolitan Mayors Caucus and was an influence in that group as well. And that's obviously a very big region. So,
yes.
But we all share a lot of the same issues. And I think when you go to these mayors' meetings, it's not necessarily what's on the agenda, but it's kind of the talking with other mayors before and after, where you learn some things, or you hear how some town had an issue that maybe you haven't seen yet, but you start to hear what's going on outside of your area. And you also learn how some people have handled issues, good and bad. Mm-hmm. And you learn off each other. So Ed was a big influence with the Metropolitan Mayors Caucus, South Suburban Mayors and Managers.
Wow.
So
I didn't know he got involved with that big of a region of organization. So
excuse me.
And that's quite an influence to have your mayor be involved with such a huge organization there and have that kind of influence.
Yeah, well, I think Ed did a lot of regional thinking. He knew you benefit the region, you benefit your own community.
Oh, yeah. No, hopefully it'll keep on going there. What's in the future for Orland Park? How any of the big things going on over there?
Well, we're very anxious to see LaGrange Road finished. That's been going on for a while, and it's a little behind schedule, but it'll be a great improvement when it's done.
Oh, yeah.
So, and then we're working on our downtown development, which is progressing very well. So, a lot of good things going on. In both communities.
I know.
Matter of fact, if you drove through Tinley into Orland or Orland into Tinley, you really wouldn't know which town was which.
It seems like
both towns are very similar in our housing stock, our retail, and just the general landscaping, and so both communities complement each other well. Okay.
Any other times when you had worked together that really had an impact on a major thing, other than that? The 150 Ninth Street auto thing there.
Well, that and like I said, the OTEC, bringing attention to Springfield about our area, the I-80 corridor study, but a lot of smaller things, and sometimes they add up. I mean, a lot of flooding issues that we worked on together, because a lot of times our towns intersect, with water. Stormwater running from one neighborhood into another, and one might be Tinley, one might be Orland. So a lot of smaller issues like that we worked quite a bit on.
Okay.
So.
I think it's very important that towns work together, and you see some towns here who don't seem to have that kind of inclination, and then that's a shame.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, there are towns that have mayors that are very dedicated, and I certainly wouldn't say a bad word about anybody. It's tough being in the public eye, but there are some towns where the elected officials aren't as involved regionally as I think they should be.
Right. Well, we got as you said, Orland and Tinley kind of meshed together, and now the other towns are meshing together. So we better start thinking that way.
Yeah, I mean the southwest suburbs, inclusive of many towns, is just a nice area, and we need to protect it and keep it.
Well, I think it's through the efforts of Tinley Park and Orland Park. You two, I think, have probably been the big guns in the south suburbs over the many years. So thankfully we had two excellent mayors to keep this region going and keep this area going.
Well, there's a lot of good people in public service.
Yeah.
It's tough, but there's a lot of good people. Their heart's in the right place, put a lot of time in, and I'm not talking about just mayors. School boards, township people, village trustees. So.
And some people don't understand that. They only think they see somebody in the public office and they think they must be some really high hotshot or something like that. And they probably don't realize what it takes and what kind of devotion they are making to make their community better, and the behind-the-scenes things that they never even thought about. So.
A lot of time. There's a lot of meetings that people don't pay attention to that are taking place, and people are taking time from their families and their own interests. So.
Well, thanks for coming to Discover Tinley. Appreciate it, and good luck to you over in Orland. And
I appreciate it.
Keep the ball rolling.
It's nice to have an opportunity to say a few nice words about Ed. I've had a lot of respect for him over the years. We've worked well together, and I wish him the best.
Very good. Ed Zabrocki, former mayor of Tinley Park, a very prominent citizen of the area and Tinley Park, and we're going to miss his leadership. Thanks for watching Discover Tinley, and we'll see you next month.